Hey guys, Mr.P-Lay here on the P-Lay Show. Let's go through my small PS1 game collection. First up we have WWF Smackdown 2 Know Your Rule. This is the game I played the most as a kid on my PlayStation 1. It's a wrestling game. What more can I say? You can fight as many different characters from WWF Smackdown at the time. There are several game modes to choose from, but I have never gone deep into them. There's even a career mode, but it's not as immersive as modern wrestling games are, of course. Next up, Alien Trilogy from Acclaim. This is one of the better Alien games out there. You play through the 3 movies of the Alien franchise in a first-person shooter. It's incredibly difficult. It's like Doom on SNES. Fast and kinda scary actually. I actually recommend you play this with unlimited ammo cheat, since ammo is very rare to come by in the game. It wasn't as expensive as I expected it to be. If you like old Doom and like the Alien movies, this is for you. Next up here we do have TOCA Touring Car Championship, a racing game where you do compete in European countries in the Touring Car Championship. It's very good. This is not like Gran Turismo. It's less of a simulation than that game, but enough to make it feel real. I don't know how to describe it. You can choose from a few manufacturers to drive a car from. Volvo is included in here. You can drive in third person, but it takes a lot of practice to understand what you see and how to drive in the courses. Speaking of Gran Turismo, here we have Gran Turismo 2. I want to say much about the game, but I haven't managed to play a lot of it since my PS1 console does not like working with the game. It gets stuck in loading and nothing happens. I have tried to play it on the PS2, but the same thing happens. But from the little I have been playing, I can say it's very fun. You do different races on different tracks. You customize your cars to your fit. There are loads of cars to choose from, 650 cars to be exact. It's not as advanced as, let's say, GT4. I find the steering a lot easier in this game. The most difficult thing is to maintain the right speed, since the PS1 does not have the pressure sensitive buttons, which the PS2 controller does have. Next up here we have Destruction Derby. First off, I'd like to give a comment to the front cover. It's awful. Can someone explain what it's supposed to look like? Anyway, this is about you choosing one car to crash and destroy other cars. It's pretty difficult actually, but it feels so good when you smash others so hard. You can also do races and try to survive in them if you want to. The damage visuals looks very good. You know when you are in trouble. Next up here we have Dino Crisis from the creators of Resident Evil. It's more or less Resident Evil, but replaced with dinosaurs. This is a game that does not hold your hands at all. You have to read a lot to progress in the game. I played this when I was a kid and never made it far, so I got a lot of surprises when I actually managed to beat the game a few years ago. So if you like Resident Evil, you will like this one too, and I know many want a remake of this game on modern consoles. Next up we have a game that is very close to my heart, Spider-Man. I don't know how many times I played through this game. You play as Spidey and fight several different enemies such as symbiotes, thugs and even lizards. You also face off lots of famous villains such as Venom and Rhino. I could call the game a semi-open world. Some stages are big and you can swing around as you want, and some are more narrow levels. The voice acting is great, the music is fantastic. You can unlock several different costumes with different attributes. Stan Lee explains the story. What more can you ask for a Spider-Man game? Maybe a remake of this one? Next up here we do have 2 games in one package, Medal of Honor 1 and 2 Underground. It's a first-person game based on the awful World War I event. In the first game you play as a soldier, and in the second game I believe you are a lady from a resistance force. They both play the same and look the same. Besides from the stories different, you get some new weapons and new enemies to fight in the second game. They both are exciting and somewhat scary since you have a short visual of sight, which means enemies can shoot you from areas where you can't see them unless you walk closer towards them. The game also shows you real footages of the World War I, so that's a warning for those who are sensitive for that. But for history lovers, that's a bonus. This is Warpath Jurassic Park. No, you're not having a dream. This is a fighting game with dinosaurs from Jurassic Park 1 and 2. And it's awful. The dinosaur controls just won't work with you. Who knew a gigantic raptor could go up against a freaking T-Rex? You can fight in different areas inspired from the movies. You do have a few dinosaurs to choose from. The sounds are good though. You do recognize them. But this is a game that doesn't really have a progression system. It's as arcadey as it gets. The idea for the game sounds good, but it's very poorly done in the end. Just don't get this game. Next up we have WWF War Zone, and I can't say much about this since I have only played it once. It was a mess, so I turned it off quickly and I haven't played it since. But as a wrestling fan I needed it. Again, it's a wrestling game. You choose your wrestler and fight in different locations, and you have different modes to choose from. You can create your own wrestler in this game, which wasn't very common back then. In the end, just stay away from this game. Going from a bad wrestling game, let's be more positive with Apocalypse, starring Bruce Willis as voice acting and face model for the game's main character. This is a third-person running shooting platformer game and is a lot of fun. It's a typical boys game if I do say so. Lots of manly voice lines, lots of shootings, lots of explosions, lots of weapons to choose from. Bloody. They want people from 15 and up to play this game for a reason. Think Returnal in PS1 graphics and the crazy bullet hell action. Just be prepared to get used to lots of sudden camera angles. They change from out of nowhere. Next up here we have Batman of the Future, or Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker. It's a side-scrolling 3D beat-em-up game. I have never managed to finish this. I had it as a kid too and did not got any further than what I have managed to do even today. You play as Batman and fight enemies with different styles. You can choose to be more defensive or more aggressive with its own pros and cons. You can also use gadgets to your help. Sometimes there are so many enemies in one fighting section that you can barely land one punch. You have a very limited amount of lives, and if you die, you go all the way back to the beginning of the game. So be cautious when you play this. This is a game that is also close to my heart. This is Disney's action game with Hercules. This game does switch a lot in its playstyle. Most of the time it's a 2D platformer, but there are levels where you do play in 2D running and jumping stages and flying stages. There are lots of elements that make this game be like 3D too. You play as Hercules and the story is the same as the movie. You can choose different powers to progress within the game. The voice acting is great. Now my PAL version is in Swedish, so I am used to that. If you like the movie Hercules, you will enjoy this game. Last up, NHL 2000. Well, it's EA Sports NHL. You choose from different teams or countries to play with or against to compete in cups or matches. I am not a hockey fan, so I just pop this in if I want to play something very casual or different. I played this a lot as a kid, but I only scored my own goals. I just don't know why. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.